Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first interview episode of Tiara Talks Food. I'm your host, Tiara, of course, and I am joined by someone who has helped shape my life and my career. One of the best professors I've had the privilege of learning under. She is someone who actually taught me my first grad school class for nutrition nutrition for health, fitness, or something like that? Basically the basics of nutrition. In fact, I think I have my textbook somewhere around here. Oh, it's on my couch. Understanding Nutrition. So her name is Allison Tepper. She is a registered dietitian in the DC metro area, and she holds a degree in nutrition from Syracuse University and completed her dietetic internship at the Pennsylvania State University. Oh, at Pennsylvania State University. I'm not editing that part. She holds a master's degree in health promotion management from American University, where she now teaches in the Department of Health Studies. Allison currently owns her private practice, Tepper Nutrition, working with clients with a range of medical conditions and needs with the focus on mindful eating. She believes that nutrition isn't just about food, but your entire lifestyle, including sleep, stress, movement, your relationship with food, and body acceptance. And if all of that sounds familiar to you, everyone, especially those who have known me for a while, because I preach those exact same things. And I've had the privilege of learning under Professor Tepper. And Professor Tepper, would you mind saying hello to our audience?
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for that welcome, Tiara. It's been such a pleasure working with you and seeing how far you've come since our first class together and now doing these videos and your business and all the amazing things. So thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining. I'm so excited that you're here. I used to get so excited when I would see that I was in one of your classes again. I think we've had 3 classes together at AU. Yeah. And you've made learning about nutrition so fun and so holistic. So to have those principles validated and being able to carry that on to this platform and other opportunities, that is definitely because of you and the amazing faculty at American University. And for our audience today, we are talking about a really hot topic around this time, which is about healthy eating and mindful eating during the holidays. Do you need to focus on healthy eating, or should you be focusing on mindful eating? Me and Professor Tepper are going to just break that down and talk about what that means and how you can practice that going into Christmas and New Year's. So, Professor Tepper, let's start with your background in nutrition. Why was this field important to you, and how did you get into it?
Yeah, so I almost fell into it in a sense, and we do find now that there's so many career changers coming into the nutrition field because they experienced something themselves, they became interested in it, and didn't know that it was a degree option in the past. And so it's something that going into school, I actually didn't know that a nutrition degree existed. I got placed into the school where the nutrition program was held, and I took a class and absolutely loved it. Nutrition was always something that I talked about and was interested in growing up. Didn't realize it could be a career option though, so was so glad when I found it. And I always knew I wanted to do something to help people. And so when I took that first class, it just seemed like such a good fit. Is like, this is what I want to help people with. And, it was something where I found food and nutrition confusing growing up and was able to see how much mindfulness shaped my relationship with food. And so now being able to help others do that is the best.
Yes. And you are always preaching about, not, dieting on your Instagram page, and people, please go follow her at Tepper Nutrition on Instagram. And you have such a holistic view of food, and that's something that you've taught your students is when we were doing, especially those papers and essays, like focusing on like a lot of the mental health aspects of it as well. Understanding that nutrition is something that embodies not just like the science itself, but what that food means to you. And I think that you've done such an amazing job with that. And can we go into what is mindful eating and why is that so important for someone's relationship with food?
Yeah. So mindfulness allows us to really pay attention to the foods that are in front of us without judgment. And in our culture, there is a lot of judgment around certain foods and how we're supposed to eat and the shoulds and the shouldn'ts. And so mindfulness allows us to just instead pay attention to the experience of eating and how we're feeling in our bodies. So mindful eating is like bring all the senses to the experience when you're eating, taste, texture, even if you hear like sizzling and just what you see. And intuitive eating is a piece of that, where intuitive eating is listening to your body's cues and really tuning into your body's cravings and needs without the expectations of any external guides. So the important piece of all of this is that we're taking into consideration the importance of different nutrients and nutrition science and combining that with our own personal needs, because each body is so unique and individual. And this allows us to really develop a healthier relationship with food, a healthier relationship with our bodies. It enables us to trust our bodies more and know that our bodies are really smart and will tell us what they need. So just makes the eating experience much more enjoyable, in my opinion.
And we're definitely in agreement there. Like all of food should be enjoyable. It really should be an enjoyable experience. Can you talk about what misconceptions people may have about just healthy eating in general, and why mindful eating, it seems so simple, like, and I feel like the advice is always do eat what you love, but also, like, kind of watch the, maybe the portion sizes or whatnot. But can you talk about like some of the other misconceptions that people have around just healthy eating in general?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a few of them, definitely, that we've all probably seen in our culture. And a big misconception is that in order to be healthy, you have to be restrictive and you can't eat the things that you enjoy. And that's important to note that it's not true. And so really, if you're cutting out your favorite foods and you're feeling deprived and you're restricting yourself, that typically can backfire and lead to overeating, and it just reduces the trust in your body. It can increase feelings of guilt and stress when we're eating. And so really instead it's saying, okay, I can have the foods that I enjoy, but let me tune into my body. So that's probably the biggest misconception, is that it has to be like clean eating or you have to be on this diet to be healthy, when you don't have to, which I hope is a stress relief for people to hear that. Another misconception is there's a lot of like superfoods and a lot of foods that are touted to be the food that will fix things. And that doesn't really exist either. It's more about getting a balance of nutrients over time and knowing that a lot of foods have really important benefits, but there's not one single food that will make or break anything. So, and there's also not one certain food that will negatively impact your body. There's a lot of talk about like intolerances and inflammatory foods, and there are some people who develop a reaction to foods, and we want to make sure that they are taking care of themselves by eliminating that food group. But if you're feeling good when you're eating different foods and you don't have a negative reaction to it, that typically means that that's a food that's fine for you to have.
Absolutely. And and I feel like that applies so much to anyone. Pretty much this is pretty much generalized information, but I've diabetes. I was diagnosed when I was actually in your program, and those were a lot of the same principles that we learned as nutrition educators, even people with diabetes, that you're if unless you're having like some sort of course, an allergic reaction or some sort of negative reaction, you should still be focused on getting all of those nutrients and having a well balanced, holistic view of food. And when typically when we used to hear well balanced, we heard, okay, just fruits and vegetables, but well balanced means more than that. It really can include, if you're someone who likes to go to Burger King, and if that's part of being well balanced for you, okay, that's cool. Whatever, go get that Whopper. Whatever. It's because it's not that Whopper isn't going to make or break your progress. And if you're someone who also wants vegetables for the next meal, that's also okay too. It really is finding that perfect, balance for you. And we're going into the holidays, and we just came out of Thanksgiving, which is probably the eating holiday of the year. But now we have Christmas. We have people who are mostly at home, and it's getting cold outside. Do you usually get a lot of questions from your clients around this time about how they can eat healthy going into Christmas and then also going into the new year?
Absolutely. Yes. So yeah, it is. It's one of those more challenging times of year around food. But again, we really want to focus on the enjoyment of it as much as possible. And what happens a lot is people will say, I'm just going to go all out. I'm going to do what I want this month, and then I'll get back on track in the new year. But we want to go into each day and each new year feeling good. We don't want to wake up on January 1st and be like, what just happened this past month? And I have regrets. So it's always this balance of eating the foods that you enjoy while listening to your body. So if you are eating foods that really kind of make you feel unwell and you're like, well, it's this time of year, I'm just going to do it anyway, thinking about how that impacts how you're feeling physically, mentally, emotionally. If we keep overeating these certain foods, it can impact our energy levels and our mood, and it just doesn't feel great. So can you eat your favorite foods while also nourishing your body and paying attention, staying on schedule, having a routine, and just honoring your hunger and fullness, honoring how you're feeling, and still, you're going to overeat. That will happen. And if it happens this time of year, that is totally fine. But can we find this balance right now and have it be consistent going into the new year?
How do you counsel people who, will end up feeling guilty, after Christmas or going into the New Year's because they might have overindulged?
Yeah, I think it's just being kind to yourself is the biggest piece of it. Knowing that you didn't do anything to hurt anyone and you just overate, and it's a normal part of life. It's normal during this time of year. And if you have plans to eat a certain way and it doesn't go as planned, that's okay.
Yeah.
If you do notice guilt, just kind of saying, okay, I'm noticing this right now, but what other thoughts can I say to myself that might help me move in the right direction? Knowing that it's okay, knowing that most of the population is overeating right now.
Right, right.
Thing. And I'm just going to go back to taking care of myself and honoring my body and listening. I'll come up with a little bit more of a plan to make sure I'm taking care of myself, but there's no reason to get down on myself about it.
Yeah, and food and around this time, I mean, it's okay. We're all feeling a lot of the same things, and I think the pandemic has really just, you know, magnified a lot of our feelings right now. Emotional eating, I think at this time is normal. People are stressed out, and food doesn't judge you. Food is just there to make you feel good, and with the holidays, especially with the pandemic surging and people not being able to see their families, it seems like it would be normal for people to take even that extra comfort in food this year. And I think what we want to get across is that it's okay. You should forgive that part of yourself right now and just accept it and move on. But like how if for people who actually who are trying to make sure this holiday is different than years past, they are trying to be more mindful what they're eating, but they're surrounded by people who are just not supportive of that. Do you get those questions a lot, and how do you help people move past that?
Yeah, it comes up a lot because there's so many conversations that always happen around dieting and weight. It's just part of our culture that's become so ingrained. And so when you're really starting on this journey and really taking into consideration what your needs are, that's the main focus. I'm an individual, my needs are different than other people's. I'm listening to my body. But it's a practice too. It's that continuous kind of talking to yourself and talking yourself through it and recognizing conversations that may have been normalized to you. Are they feeling a little bit uncomfortable right now? And checking in with yourself about that. This time of year definitely can become more challenging with conversations and thoughts around food. And so if you feel like you need additional support, that's always an option too. And that can be helpful, like talking to someone about the thoughts and things that are coming up with food to help navigate it a little bit more productively. But yeah, it's really just kind of focusing on yourself, reducing comparison, and knowing that your body is an individual and focusing on that.
Absolutely. And it's also okay to like draw boundaries with people. Like,
Yeah.
so if you know that you're with someone and you're really trying to hold true to your health and wellness goals, and someone is just like being persistent about getting you to stray from that, it's okay to say no. I'm saying to say no because sometimes people can't always leave their environment, which is why you really have to really know yourself and hold firm to your beliefs and just say, no, I'm focused on my health and wellness goals. I have a longer view of where I want to be. And I know today is going to influence that. And I think that's such a strength to have. We in the diabetes world, we talk a lot about patient advocacy, advocating for yourself, but that applies to pretty much any facet of life where you feel like you may run up against challenges presented by other people.
Absolutely. That's such an important point. The boundaries and practicing saying no and focusing on your needs is such a big piece of it. So such a good point.
Yeah. And do you have any personal mantras that you follow around this time of year? Or do you make any like healthy changes to foods? Do you exercise more? How do you get through the holidays and practice mindful eating?
Yeah, great question. Well, so I keep things as consistent as possible. I try to kind of approach the holidays as just another time of year, knowing that I'll probably indulge a little bit more, and that's okay. One of the biggest pieces, though, is to make sure that you're continuing to eat regularly throughout the day. So I know it's such a trend and something that I did in the past too, where like, okay, Thanksgiving Day or Christmas Day, I know there's going to be this big meal. So I'm just going to not eat as much earlier in the day and hold out for the meal later on. That does not work for me. And for many people, it leads to a lot of overeating. And so then we're kind of like going back and forth on this pendulum of like under eating, overeating, and back. And so really like having that consistency is key and something that I really try to follow, and knowing like, okay, if I go into this meal feeling hungry but not starving, I'll be able to pay attention to my body a little bit more and eat the things that I want to eat without feeling like I went totally overboard. So that's a big part of it. Definitely the movement is something that I prioritize in general, but definitely more around this time of year, especially too because stress can heighten around the holiday season. And so exercise is something that just helps relieve that as well. So that's a big piece of it. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to be baking, but I also want to feel good. So making sure I have everything that I need, coming up with a bit of a plan, being prepared, but also enjoying because I make some good cookies. So, yeah.
Oh, really? What type of cookies are you making? And can you send some to California, or I'll just come to dinner?
Absolutely, because it's just going to be me eating them if I don't send them places, if it's just the two of us here. But yeah, so I made Linzer tarts for the first time last year, raspberry with the shortbread, and definitely plan on making those again this year. So that's been my favorite holiday cookie.
Oh, that sounds so delightful. I really want some. I think one thing about like healthy and mindful eating, and this is something that I think also applies that we see a lot in for people with diabetes, which is, focusing on portion sizes and
Mhm.
how like just going from a dinner size plate to like maybe an appetizer size plate can really make the difference, and maybe filling that extra space that you're used to eating with like water, maybe instead of eating more, going out or trying a new activity. And it sounds so simplified. Do you still find that people are often surprised by how simple the changes sound, but they may be overcomplicating it in their heads?
Yeah, that's a great point and a great question. Definitely, we're born intuitive eaters. We're born listening to our bodies, but over time that gets lost in just everything with our culture and the day-to-day lifestyles that we have. So yes, I think definitely when people come in and I'm meeting with them and talking about mindfulness around food, it's like I thought you would be giving me a strict, confusing plan and I would have to do all this work when it really comes down to the basics. But if we've been approaching food for a certain way for however many years, then it takes time to get back into these rhythms and habits of food and getting that trust back in our body. So yeah, it sounds basic, but it's a practice for sure.
Yeah, and that's because like we want, people had to realize how much power they have, like to make their own choices. And that's something we practice a lot in the nutrition education program, which is empowering your patients to trust themselves to make the right food choices. I mean, you can give people the choose my plate or the plate method, but when you when you tell them like, yeah, you can still have your favorite foods. You don't have to really give anything up. Even around the holidays, like you just don't need to overeat. But if you do, that's also okay. Forgive yourself and move on. Um, but there are ways to still work in the foods that you love while reaching your health goals or even reforming your relationship with food. And like you mentioned earlier, in our culture, especially now with social media, we see a lot of people who have like the bowl of like fresh fruits and vegetables, and they're like, I am eating this, and it's like every day, and like part of you is like, should I be doing that too every single day? But that doesn't work for everybody for different reasons. But we hope that people can still find those little nuggets that can help them in the long run. And maybe you'll have a person who want to hold a bowl of frozen fruits and veggies that they can use too, because those are just as good as fresh.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that definitely with social media and just in general, like the expectations of what we should be eating
Yeah.
have sometimes become a little bit unattainable and just frustrating for people. And so knowing that there's no right or wrong, it's all about getting a balance of nutrients throughout the day in a way that works for you. It doesn't have to look perfect. There is no such thing as perfect. And especially on social media, a lot of it is just like a snapshot of what they're doing in that moment, but we don't really know what's going on throughout the day. So
Yes, that is such an important point. It is just a snapshot of someone's day. You don't know what someone else is going through, and that feeling of perfectionism perfection doesn't exist. And people can curate their social medias to show them, their highlights of the day, but you never know. So that comparing yourself to others just isn't worthwhile. And I have a couple more questions for you about how you interact with food during the holidays. Um, do you ever? It sounds so silly, but like, is it necessary to even eat healthy during the holidays? Can people just practice mindful eating, but let's say they know they're going to eat nothing but just junk food or a bunch of comfort foods that probably aren't the healthiest? Can you just practice mindful eating or intuitive eating with that without focusing on the healthy part?
That's a good question. So I always like to find this balance, of course, of balancing your plate and getting in the nutrients that you need throughout the day while enjoying yourself. Because part of mindfulness and intuitive eating is eating to nourish and to energize yourself and to feel good. And so if you are eating, we call it the fun foods all day, every day, for the most part, people will start to feel the effects of that. Not everyone, and some people are like, I can eat that all day and feel totally fine. But if you really allow yourself to do that and you do only eat those foods, you're typically going to get some signals from your body of like, I need something. I need a vegetable. I need a fruit, something like that. So again, it kind of becomes this combination of knowing, okay, we want to get this balance of nutrients because we want to still take care of ourselves, but also we'll probably get those signals from our body. And so we can listen to that. I don't know if you've had those types of days. Like I know for myself, if it's been a day in the past where it's like we're doing a cookie contest and we're baking and we had, pancakes for breakfast. And it's like by the end of the day, you're just like, okay, I need to eat a vegetable. And so you're going to get those signals. And again, especially for myself, like I know if I eat like that day after day,
You feel it.
yeah, exactly. I'm not going to be the best version of myself. I'll probably be a little bit irritable and cranky and not sleep well. And so
Yeah.
that internal reminder of why we need the healthy foods and the nutritious foods to get us through.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if I'm traveling, sometimes it's hard for me to eat really healthy, but I feel it like as soon as I get home. Because my body, it feels sluggish, and I feel like I just need something green, even if I'm going to have like a fun food with it, I need something green to go with that. And I think that was my last question for you, Professor Tepper. What other advice or recommendations do you have for people who want to just eat well, practice eating well during the holidays?
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely that eating regularly is always such a big piece of it. Make sure you're eating consistently so that you don't go too long and get hangry or whatever might come up for you. Trying to get that balance of nutrients in as much as you're able to throughout the day, at each meal, trying to get some form of protein and carbohydrates and fruits or vegetables so that you're nourishing your body and taking care of yourself, allowing the room for the fun foods in a way that feels good for you. Definitely checking in on any emotional eating that comes up and tuning into that. If you're noticing feeling like I'm stress eating a bit more and I'm emotionally eating, finding other ways to take care of yourself, reaching out to friends or getting some fresh air, movement, journaling, whatever it might be. But yeah, really enjoy this time of year, especially now. It's going to look a little different this year. So giving yourself a little bit of extra grace as we're navigating all of this. And then again, definitely if you feel like it's just a little challenging, there's a lot of fear or guilt around food, you find yourself under eating, overeating in a way that feels a little bit different for you, knowing that there's support out there, knowing that there's people that you can talk to about these pieces and can help you navigate everything.
Absolutely. And that the part about journaling is, I think, is so important. I know I do that. And as someone who is an emotional, or who has struggled with emotional eating, that journaling is so helpful, because it's where you can just, you don't have to hide any part of who you are. You could just, go all in and be honest about what you're feeling. And I think if you're going into going into Christmas holidays, and especially if you're alone, like I live alone, and you're feeling lonely, you're getting sort of depressed, and you feel like food is your best friend, try journal it out and actually be honest about, what you're feeling at that moment. And then try channeling some of that energy towards something else. Like maybe there's a hobby that you've picked up over the last 8 or 9 months, or maybe you can do a Zoom call or with friends, or maybe you can binge watch an old TV show that brings up such good memories for you, something to take your mind off of using those emotions towards food. Because the food is just, it's just the outlet. It's just a tool to either get rid of those emotions that you're feeling. But it doesn't have to be. You can use another tool. It could be reading, could be exercising, can be anything else. Doesn't necessarily have to be food centric. And I think that's going to be something that's important to remember as we go into Christmas in a couple of weeks.
Absolutely. Such good tips. Definitely. I think that's such a big point, is that food is oftentimes a signal of something else that's going on. And so, yeah, finding ways to take care of yourself is so key. And I like the idea of the binge watching a television show, because
Yeah.
time to do it.
Yeah, I know that's helped me like a lot. Like just watching, and it's watching shows that I know that I've watched when I was younger, because they bring up really good memories, and I'm less focused actually on eating, because I'm just like watching the show. But if you're someone who does eat a lot when you're binge watching, just take breaks, go for a walk, make sure part of your plate has something green on it, some vegetables. Drink water. Please drink your water. And if you are going to eat smaller portions, portion sizes, I think, is one of the most helpful nutrition tips out there, because you can just cut your calories just like that. And you don't feel like you have to compromise on what the flavors and the sensations that you get from your favorite foods.
Absolutely.
So, Professor Tepper, would you mind telling our audience where they can find you, where they can get in touch with you, and how, if someone wants more personalized advice from you, how can they reach out?
Yeah, thank you. So, yes, you can find me at, our website is teppernutrition.com, and on Instagram at Tepper Nutrition. And there's a team of 5 of us. And so can guide you to whichever practitioner will help you reach your needs. But definitely feel free to reach out with any questions that you have. I'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. And everyone, please check her out. She is amazing. I've learned so much from her. I still learn from her. You think about teachers who have had an impact on your life. She is one of them. And I can't wait for you guys to meet the next one who we both know. But it's people like Professor Tepper who really make this field worth it. And Professor Tepper, I'm just so grateful to you. You've really made a difference in my life, and you make nutrition education a worthwhile field to develop in.
Oh, thank you, Tiara. I'm so happy we found a time to connect, and I'm so proud of how far you've come, and such a good way to end the year talking to you about this.
Same. And I'll have you on again to talk about other things. Like, there's so much to talk about when it comes to mindful eating and intuitive eating and just enjoying food and focusing less on things like weight loss. I can't wait to dive into that topic soon. But we'll be on again to talk about those topics. Everyone, thank you so much for watching this first episode of interview with a guest. I am so excited to have done this with Tiara Talks Food, which is me. Yay! I hope all of you have enjoyed this conversation. And please, when you're listening to these tips, try to figure out how they can work in your life. The holidays are a tough time, especially this year. So please be kind to yourself. If you're someone like me who loves chocolate baked goods, I know I'm going to be indulging, but I also know I'll probably be going for a walk, for a run, maybe be meditating. But I am going to have a guilt-free Christmas holiday, and I hope you do too. Please take care of yourself. Really, take care of yourself. Professor Tepper, thank you again for joining me today. It's been awesome talking to you.
Yes, likewise. Thank you.
Thank you. And everyone, I'll see you next time. Peace.